So nearby, Brad, Nisha, and Lucas, the entire team is together once again. What is your favourite Metallica song?
Enter Sandman. I'm basic.
And you know what? We can't play a clip of it for reasons that become obvious in the bottom. The thing is, you say that, so we can't play a clip.
Can we sing the tune?
No, don't do it. No. They're coming in.
Lucas, do you remember when Metallica played like at Twitch Live once, and then Twitch themselves had to mute Metallica so Metallica wouldn't send them a copyright strike?
Yep.
But it's live stream.
The live stream of Metallica playing their own music was muted.
Because Twitch were that afraid that Metallica, the band, would send them a cease and desist for Metallica playing live at their show. And for that reason, fuck Metallica. Let's talk about how a guy once trolled them in the 2000s. In the year 2000, a man called Sean Fanning, the creator of a little site called Napster that let people download music for free, found himself at the end of a legal shotgun being held by the lawyers for the band Metallica. Rather than back down, Fanning decided to just troll the entire band live on TV in front of the entire world at the 2000 VMAs. So first though, a little history. And are either of you guys familiar with Napster's history, specifically their little spat with Metallica?
I'm aware that it was like some kind of place where you could download free music and that caused a bunch of shit to go down, but like,
yes,
that's about it for me.
So Napster was one of the earliest and most influential file sharing websites. So let's set the scene. The year 2000, Metallica had just recorded a song for the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack. Here's a clip that we can't play. That's the thing. That's like I say. We can't because they'll send us in that thing, and it all goes back to Metallica. All this copyright nonsense goes back to Metallica. So fuck them.
I was gonna say because like, isn't this Napster situation like essentially a butterfly effect to all the copyright shit we've got to deal with now?
Yes, like, you know, this is what like basically gave artists like the ammunition that allowed them to like sue the fuck out of like both Napster and individuals we'll get to in a moment. But Metallica noticed that this song was being played on the radio, which was confusing them because the song had not been released yet and they weren't being paid for any of this radio airtime. So they tasked their lawyer with tracking down where the song had been leaked from, and they discovered that it originated on Napster, and from there people had downloaded it and radio DJs got their hands on it, perhaps not realising that the track hadn't been released yet, or perhaps, no, just taking advantage of the fact it's an unreleased Metallica track they can play. Metallica got doubly pissed when they found out you could get their entire discography on Napster for free.
Shocked Pikachu face.
And this seems all kind of quaint now, considering the proliferation of things like Spotify and YouTube, where on the site you're watching this on, you can just type in any song you want and you'll find either an official stream from the band or artist or their recording studio, or a crappy lyrics video from the 2000s.
Yeah. Made in like Windows Movie.
Windows Movie Maker with a blue background, the lyrics on screen spelled wrong. It seems kind of quaint, right? But at the time, this was a huge deal. The entire industry wanted to know what the fuck was going on, and the blame was pointed squarely at Napster and those naughty people downloading things for free.
Like, people still bought albums back then.
Yeah, people still bought albums now. Ish, yeah. And I still remember there's a great article out there where a researcher pinpointed the exact moment like singles died. The idea of like releasing one track as like a physical release. And they went, yeah, we looked, and the top selling singles chart for whatever year they discovered was a Florence and the Machine single, and it sold like 400 copies, and it was the number one that week. And they went, that's the moment this format died, because they got the number one and they sold less than 400 of the fucking things.
I invested so much money in singles back then.
Just think, like, £2 for a song.
Yeah, but sometimes you get a bonus track as well.
Ooh, you get the B-side that no one wants.
The thing is, like, it was never like £2 though. It was always like
£5
or £6, and then a £10 album instead. And it's like, why would I buy this one song?
And the pricing was all over the place. And thankfully, we've moved past that, way of delivering music. We have stuff like Spotify and iTunes and all these services that basically let you pay a small fee and then you just gain access to the entire discography. And the music industry has fought very hard to stop that from happening. And I think we did a wiki weekend on Spotify, didn't we? Where Spotify, fun fact, folks, take 30% of all the revenue raised. The other 70% goes to the rights holders. Because you've probably heard stories about like Spotify not paying artists very well. It's like they actually pay pretty decently considering, like, the industry. They take 30%. The lion's share goes to the rights holder. The problem is, for a lot of artists, the rights holder isn't them. It's their recording label. And then they take the lion's share of that lion's share and pay the artist a pittance.
That's why Taylor Swift is doing exactly what she's doing.
Re-recording it so she owns all the masters. And just for comparison's sake, we're recording this on YouTube. YouTube takes a 45% cut of all revenue generated from advertisements run against content. But bringing it back to Metallica and Napster, like this court case that was eventually filed set a precedent, and the reverberations of it can still be felt to this day in the fact that we can't even put in a clip of a Metallica song. We're that scared of, like, the precedent that's been set of, like, how greedily, these rights holders will just refuse to allow anyone to use their intellectual property, even if you can argue it's fair use.
Every time we would put in a clip, can we just put in some Steamboat Willie instead?
Yeah. Oh, that's in the public domain now, right? Yeah. Steamboat Willie's in the public domain, but Mickey Mouse isn't. Remember that?
Yeah. Have you seen all these people getting mad that, like, they're just putting Mickey Mouse on products and going, well, it's in the public domain? It's like, no, Steamboat Willie is.
Yeah, a very specific iteration of the character.
Yeah, and it's like, copyright is a whole mess, and this mess in regards to Napster got a lot more messy when other struggling artists like Dr. Dre got involved and sued Napster for millions. And the end result was, I have it here, Metallica managed to sue to the tune of $100,000 per song hosted on the site. Hundreds of thousands of fans were also banned from using Napster, as were several universities who Metallica also sued for allowing people to have access to the site. That's the power, that the music industry held at the time. And it's no wonder that you hear stories like Lucas said of Taylor Swift, like a billionaire. Like, her dad is like he owns a bank, and she can't afford to buy her own music back. She has to re-record it all. That's how powerful the music industry is. Like, the single most influential, powerful musician in the industry today cannot get the rights to their own music back. They have to re-record them all again.
Potentially one of the most well-known and influential people on the planet right now.
Yeah, cannot get their music rights back.
When we're talking about Metallica in the story, is it the actual band or is it...
It's definitely the band, because all the members of the band have been very, very outspoken about this. And they've sort of like, well, okay, sure, people just downloading shit for free is a bit of a dick move. But do you know, like, they're also like people recording like their concerts and sharing them on YouTube. They hate that. They don't like people, like, even the idea of like lending an album to a friend. They hate that as well. It's like, no, buy one. It's like, really? Really, Metallica? It's called Metallica? Really? There was a great story where it's like, they asked Lars Ulrich, who's like the most outspoken member of the band, about this. Like, so have you ever downloaded music? He went, once. And I downloaded our album because it's mine. And it's like, fair enough, I guess that makes sense.
But surely he doesn't need to download it, he could just get himself one of the CDs.
Well, he did it because he wanted to test how easy it was. It was actually really easy.
I'd love Lars Ulrich walking into a music shop and just picking up a Metallica CD and then walking out. It's like, you have to pay for that. It's mine.
And rather than realising, maybe the problem is distribution then, because what's the quote from Gabe Newell Lucas about piracy?
I can't remember the exact quote.
Piracy is a service issue.
Yeah.
It's a service issue, not a theft issue. It's like, if you make the service good enough, people won't need to pirate, and that's why like Steam has like a near monopoly on PC game sales. I remember like when Epic were getting mad about it, trying to sue Steam. It's like, you can't sue them for just being better at this than you. They have a de facto monopoly because they're just better at it.
I've got an Epic Games library which has about 300 games. I bought one.
And that's the industry changing for the better to reflect the fact that, I think there's a great, I forget the name of the artist now, it's going to piss me off, but there's a singer who recorded a song literally called Download This Song, where they make a very poignant point during like the breakdown where it's like, music was a product, now it is a service. And presumably we could put a clip in of that song.
Hey, Mr. Record Man, the joke's on you. Running your label like it was 1992.
I think it might be like DJ Lars, I think the guy's name, but you go buy a CD, you had that CD, and then you have to listen to those 10 shit songs. Now it's a service. You pay for access to the service, and you gain access to all of music, not just one specific band's output. And that is inarguably better for the consumer, but bands don't like that. They'd much prefer it if you had to just give them the money right away and like, you give us £10, we give you 10 songs, done. Well, that's just not the way the industry works right now.
You've overcharged us for music for years, and now we're just trying to find a fair balance. I hate to say it, but welcome to the future.
The thing is, though, like, inherently, as we mentioned earlier, it's still, like, the rights holders that are the problem, because you listen to, like, people talk about, you know, oh, well, we were big back in the noughties, and all those album sales, and we went platinum multiple times, and now we've got no money.
Yeah.
And it's like, Spotify wasn't around to fuck that up back then, it was still happening.
And then, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's an imperfect system, but I think the best version of it would be closer to what we have now than what we had then. Because you don't, like, back in the days where it's just like the music industry, the record industry controlled everything. Like, artists would not be successful unless the record industry deigned it to be so. Now you have, like, genuine, like, you know, rising stars who come out of nowhere because they're just, I think the story I tell a lot is, like, Post Malone, when he was pre-Malone. Before he was, like, he was just a SoundCloud rapper who woke up one day and had 3 million streams.
When was he Malone then?
There was, like, one day.
Yeah. I just like calling him pre-Malone, but, like, he's one of those genuine success stories of just a dude making music on SoundCloud. And you still have, like, you know, the industry plants. Like, you still got your Billie Eilish. I was making music in my bedroom with my brother. You mean your brother, the, like, you know, award-winning record producer?
Don't mention that part.
That's the one that's, like, you know, never ask that old meme, isn't it? Like, you never ask a woman her weight, a man his salary, or an indie label musician why their parents' names on Wikipedia are blue. That's the one about, like, Taylor Swift, where, like, I said her dad, he either owns a bank or he's, like, really high up in an investment company. And, like, it's literally called, like, Swift Consolidated or something like that. And do you know when NFTs were a thing? No. And they're thankfully dead now. Someone approached Taylor Swift, and she was apparently one of the only artists who actually asked what they were. And she, like, asked her dad's company, like, what are these? And they went, don't invest in them. Like, it's a bubble, it's going to burst, and it'll ruin your reputation, which is worth more than these NFTs are. And she went, okay, no, thank you. And apparently she was the only celebrity who actually asked, what are they?
She always gets framed as, like, growing up on a farmhouse. And then you Google how big that farmhouse is. It's like, ugh.
Like I said, her dad is like, the company bears his name. But we, you know, get a bit lost in the weeds now. So let's go back to the year 2000. Things were nice about then, right?
No.
Oh. So it sucked for us, but it was all right for, you know, fans of music. Because suddenly now, instead of paying £10 for an album, you can get all this free shit online. And the founder of Napster, Sean Fanning, despite at the time, like, facing down this, like, multi-million-dollar lawsuit, was for some reason invited to present an award at the Video Music Awards.
What?
So, like, while the entire industry was, like, in the process of trying to sue him and his website, he was invited to, like, you know, give an award at the VMAs.
Did everyone boo him?
No, quite the opposite, in fact. So, Fanning spied the opportunity for what we like to call a little bit of trolling. So what he did is he asked around all of his friends, like, have any of you got a Metallica shirt? Eventually he managed to rustle one up, and when he was announced to raucous applause, he walked out, and then the presenter lost their shit. And Lucas, is that Jeff Keighley?
I'll have to get closer.
Is it Jeff Keighley? I can't tell if it is or not.
I don't think it is.
He just looks a lot like him in the GIF, right? But like, he walked out, and the guy who was co-presenting the award with him points and goes, "Oh, hey, nice shirt," and they both start laughing. To which Fanning responded, "Thanks, a friend of mine shared it with me, maybe I'll buy my own." But here's the thing, this wasn't a bit. The co-host thought it was a bit. And then, like, you can clearly tell in the clip that they get a word in their ear of, "This is not a bit."
All right, I think we need to get on with this introduction as quickly as possible.
Yo, the sooner I can get off the stage, the better.
Yeah, you and me both.
So they very quickly tried to move on, but the camera operator realised what was going on and then started to scan the crowd, looking for Lars Ulrich, who was in the crowd at the time.
Absolute hero.
And what Lars Ulrich did is he literally pretended to be asleep when the camera goes on him. Because obviously, like, behind the scenes, they were probably losing the shit. Oh, God, no, like, Lars Ulrich suing this dude. Don't. Just move on. And then the camera was like, "No, man, we can't sing."
Double down.
And Ulrich spent the rest of the show trying to melt into the furniture until he was asked to come on stage to present an award to Blink 182, where you couldn't hear what he was saying because he was booed the entire time. Oh, it's just the idea that he pretends to be asleep. That's what gets me.
If he'd been a bit smarter, he could have used this as an opportunity to create something like Spotify.
Yeah.
Or to talk to the guy or Napster and been like, your service works, let's make it official.
Well, that's always the way, isn't it? Of like when there are these services that disrupt the traditional model, the usual modus operandi of those who already have all the power is just crush it. Like, remember, what was the thing called before TikTok? It's Vine, right?
Ooh, this is my jam. Turn that song off. This is my jam.
Do you know what happened to Vine? Because it just disappeared.
So it was either Facebook or Google, or somebody bought it.
Facebook bought it and just got rid of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They bought it, and then the guys who made it tried to make a new thing called Bytes, which didn't work. And now TikTok's come in, and now because TikTok's owned by China, you can't buy TikTok. You're not buying that shit and shutting that down. But that's what happens. And it was similar to Napster, of like the record industry basically had a prime opportunity to completely revolutionize how music was distributed, and they could have had their foot in the door from the very earliest moments. Like they could have bought Napster or invested in it and just said, okay, so this is a way to distribute music the world over. Make it a service charge. Like we can just charge $5 a month and get artists. Like, and they didn't do that. They tried to shut it down instead, and there's a few years later, Spotify comes in. Same thing, there's the famous story about Blockbuster and Netflix, where Reed Hastings, they found a Netflix, tried to sell Netflix to Blockbuster, and Blockbuster were like, no. People love walking into our stores and getting, charged money for not returning Shrek 2.
Well, there's some fine print for you.
Because I think the actual quote from Blockbuster, because we did a video on it, didn't we, Brad? It's like, people love the experience of Blockbuster. It's like, no one likes the experience of Blockbuster. Like, you can't compete with the convenience of, you just... Netflix just will literally arrive in the post. Yeah, that's what happens to these big things. Like they, rather than try and capitalize upon them, they shut them down because they don't want to deal with the competition. And it's always very funny to see them desperately try and put that genie back in the bottle. But you can't, can you? You can't give someone, oh, you can have every song in the world for free, and then no, go buy my album. So you can't do that.
And that's the thing is, yeah, I was what were we, 8 when this happened, but flash forward a few years, I was just downloading torrents to put on my MP3 player instead. You can't
get him!
I've never committed a crime in my life. I don't know what you're about.
What is this LimeWire you speak of?
Yeah, I remember using LimeWire to download LimeWire Pro. You felt like such a fucking pro move right there. Yeah, and those things, they all existed, and that's why the discussion of this always gets so muddy online, because we're content creators, so we have to take a fairly hardline stance on piracy. And we did when we were younger. We were unable to afford things like that, and the option to the Gabe Newell quote, the service to it's an access issue. We didn't have access to music, and if that would have existed at the time, we probably would have paid for it. And now that it does, I do pay for it. I pay for Spotify and all that good stuff. Well, I did until I've not told that story in a video, have I? So do you know Spotify Wrapped, and everyone loves Spotify Wrapped? Yeah. They raised their prices, and I was like, you know what? I should probably get YouTube Premium, because I held off getting YouTube Premium for so long because I'm on it, and I always felt like, after a certain point, YouTube should just give creators YouTube Premium. I probably made them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just give me fucking YouTube Premium for free. But I thought, it's £1 more. And I don't watch much YouTube, but when I do, it'd be nice to, support the creators that I do with that little bit extra monetary support that I don't really have to do anything to do. And I did that just for Spotify Wrapped dropped. And I was chatting to a girl on Tinder, and she asked me what my Spotify Wrapped said. I'm like, oh yeah, I got rid of Spotify and she immediately unmatched. I'm like, no! I was so annoyed. It was like, no! But those services exist now, and that's why the discussion's always so frustrating, because there's people on the other side no, I don't want to pay for anything, and I want to ad block everything and download everything for free. And it's but you need to put something into the pot. The take a penny, leave a penny tray concept, isn't it? Of a donation bin of okay, you can take stuff out of there, and if you really need it, you can, but you should probably put some stuff in. So there's for the people worse off than you can come grab something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we are literally providing hundreds of hours of free content. The least you can do is watch one advert at the start of a video.
I'll never forget the message that I got once from someone who genuinely couldn't understand. Oh, but I watch your videos with ad block on. It's you don't make us any money. It's but I watched the video. Does that not make you money? It's like, no, because the money comes from advertisements. But surely YouTube gives you money for me watching the video. It's like, no, they only give me money if people watch it and watch the ad. That's where they get their money from. If anything, you're taking money away from YouTube. You're an active drain on their resources. A minor one at that, but if there's like, a sizable percentage of people do that, and they just couldn't get it through their head that we weren't making money if they didn't watch ads.
And two often asked questions are, do you get money if you skip an ad, which is no, and do you get the same amount of money watching an ad as YouTube Premium, which is yes.
Yes,
luckily.
It's a frustrating concept because obviously, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but most discussion online, as it often tends to do, goes like one way or the other. So that middle ground, like I said, it's, you've got to at least put something in. If you want to take something out of this big pool of resources, put something. It's like even the days of like torrenting and stuff. It was always like the dick move not to like seed your torrents.
Yeah, you got to be a seeder.
Yeah. And people still did. And it's like, and then they wonder like, why can't I find like an upload of this film from like 10 years ago? Because no one's fucking. That's why. And that's the problem, isn't it? It's like if everyone acts like a dickhead, it's like Wonder Trading. Wonder Trading, where it's like, oh, if I go in there and I give everyone Pidgeys, I'll get all their legendaries. It's like, but then if everyone thinks like that, all it is Pidgeys. You need. That's the thing. There needs to be at least one person putting something out. It's not worth it for anyone. Eventually, it becomes completely useless.
Something that frustrates me, like I pay for Netflix, pay for Amazon Prime,
Yep.
I have Disney Plus, I have Spotify Premium, all that stuff. What annoys me is when I'm looking for a film, and it's not on Netflix, not on Disney, I go on Amazon Prime. 9 times out of 10, I have to pay money to rent it or buy it. It's like, am I not spending enough money as it is?
Or nowadays, it's like, oh, it's available on Amazon Prime, on Paramount Plus on Amazon Prime. And it's, fuck off.
You will not get me. I want to watch that Frasier reboot, but I'm not paying the £5. I've not watched the Halo show yet because it's on Paramount Plus. I'm like, fuck you.
So I really wanted to watch the Barbie movie. I had to pay £5 just to rent it. And I was like, this is a one-off.
There's also too many services now. We're back to the cable TV days of like, because you can't watch everything. You have to choose what you want to watch. I am.
And that's when someone goes, "Why just pirate everything?" It's like, well, fuck you. Yeah. It's like, thank you for just. Like, it's like, sure. And then someone's like, "Oh well, what about if I can't watch it in my country?" It's like, well, anime is not a fucking human right. It's not on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like the only.
It's on mine.
Like but the only argument for like, doing it is like, I want it.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard argument to argue with someone against because it's an inherently selfish mentality of like, I guess you did want it. And at that point, you can't really argue against them because I want it.
That's the thing is, like, I don't give a shit if you want it and you pirate it. It's the fact that the people need to find an excuse to justify it.
It's like I compare it to littering. Of everyone litters, it's a huge dick move to do it. But it's really weird if someone defends littering. And then it's like, oh, well, big corporations like make more litter than anyone else. Like, yeah, they do, but you don't have to contribute to it. And if you do, it's really weird to like proudly stand there and say that you do it and then act aggressively to anyone's like, that's a bit of a dick move, you're ruining shit for everybody else. And that's like always the comparison I like to use because I think that's just a nice, metaphor for it of just, or nice allegory. I always forget the difference between an allegory and a metaphor.
Why if littering's not available in their country, Carl?
That's how I always see it. It's like littering of like, ultimately it doesn't really hurt anyone, but it is a bit of a dick move to do.
It's a position, it's just not a very defendable position.
Yeah, it's an inherently selfish mindset and can't wait for everyone's been. But what about if I can't watch One Piece in my country? It's like, well, fucking, I don't know.
No, to be fair, pirate. Just watch it any way you can, people.